Hey there and welcome. Today we're diving into something absolutely fundamental to, well, all of life, reproduction. It's the incredible story of how life makes more life, passing its secrets down from one generation to the next. But have you ever really stopped and asked, why? Why is it so important?
So let's start with that big question right there. Why do organisms even bother? I mean, think about it. You need to breathe, you need to eat, you need to sleep. All of those things are crucial for you to survive day in and day out. But reproduction? Not so much, not for the individual.
And that's the real kicker, right? An individual organism can live its whole life just fine without ever reproducing. But for its species to keep going, well, then it's everything. It's the most important job there is. Without it, any species, no matter how successful, just fades away. The stakes are literally extinction.
Okay, so how does a species actually pull this off? How does it avoid disappearing forever? Well, it all comes down to passing on a very specific set of instructions, what you might call the blueprint for survival itself.
And that blueprint is DNA. It's this incredible instruction manual, coiled up super tightly inside the nucleus of pretty much every single cell. It has all the information needed to build and run an entire organism. It's why all members of one species share a similar body design.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The process of copying this blueprint, it's not perfect. Tiny little errors, what we call variations, they just naturally happen. And while some of these mistakes can be bad news, these little imperfections are also the raw material for evolution. And as we're about to see, that turns out to be incredibly important.
So to deal with this, life basically came up with two main game plans. On one side, you've got asexual reproduction. Think fast, efficient, basically making identical clones. And on the other side, you have sexual reproduction. Yeah, it's slower and it's way more complex, but its secret weapon, creating totally unique individuals every single time. Let's dig into both.
All right, let's dive into this tale of two strategies. And we'll start with the fast and faithful approach, the world of asexual reproduction.
You can really think of asexual reproduction as life's photocopier. For a single-celled organism like an amoeba, it's as simple as it gets. It just splits right down the middle into two identical copies. We call that binary fission. Some parasites could even do multiple fission, making a whole bunch of copies at once. And for simple multicellular life, like the algae Spirogyra, the organism just breaks into pieces, and each little fragment can grow into a whole new one.
And believe me, this photocopying strategy can get pretty wild. Take the flatworm planaria. They have these incredible powers of regeneration. I mean, you can literally cut one into pieces, and each piece will grow back into a whole new worm. How cool is that? Then there's budding, where a brand new individual just grows right off the parent's body, like a little bud, before popping off. You see this in things like yeast and hydra.
Now plants, they are the undisputed champions of this. We humans actually use it all the time. It's called vegetative propagation, and it's how we grow things like sugarcane, roses, and bananas from cuttings. It's fast, and it guarantees the new plant is exactly like the parent. Another genius tactic is spore formation, which you see in things like bread mold. These spores are like tiny survival pods with these super tough walls, just waiting for conditions to get better before they start to grow.
Okay, so this all begs a really big question, right? If this photocopier strategy is so incredibly fast and efficient, why isn't it the only strategy? Why would life ever bother with a slower, way more complicated method?
Well, the answer boils down to one word: variation. You see, sexual reproduction is life's genetic remix strategy. It takes the DNA from two different parents and shuffles it all up, creating brand new combinations every single time. This diversity is basically an insurance policy for the species. Think about it. If a new disease pops up, a population of clones are all equally vulnerable. They could get totally wiped out. But in a diverse group, there's a much better chance that someone in there has just the right stuff to survive.
But, okay, hang on. Combining DNA from two parents, that creates a bit of a math problem, doesn't it? If you just smush two normal cells together, the baby would have double the DNA, and the next generation quadruple? The solution is just brilliant. Life came up with specialized reproductive cells called gametes. You know them as sperm and eggs. They're made with only half the normal amount of DNA, so when they fuse together, presto, the offspring has the correct amount.
And flowering plants give us a fantastic, easy-to-see example of how this all works. First, pollen, which has the male gamete, gets transferred over to the female part of the flower.
That's pollination. Next, that male gamete travels down and fuses with the female egg cell. That's fertilization. From there, the fertilized egg starts to develop into an embryo, which gets packaged up in a seed, and the part of the flower around it, the ovary, swells up and becomes a fruit.
All right, now that we've got the big ideas down, let's bring it all back home. Let's talk about us and see how these principles play out in the human case study.
For us, this whole journey really kicks into gear with puberty. And while we often focus on all the physical changes, from a biological point of view, they serve a really clear purpose. They're basically signals, a form of communication, announcing to the world that an individual's body is maturing and becoming capable of reproduction.
So here's how that journey typically unfolds. After puberty, it can all start with fertilization, the moment a single sperm fuses with an egg. That brand new cell then travels and implants itself in the wall of the uterus. This kicks off gestation, the roughly 9-month period where that single cell develops from an embryo into a fetus. And the whole thing culminates in birth, which is powered by powerful rhythmic contractions of the uterus.
So you might be wondering, how does this tiny embryo get everything it needs during this incredible growth spurt? The answer is the placenta. This amazing organ is a disc of tissue that embeds in the uterine wall, and it's the critical link between the mother and the embryo. It provides a huge surface area for oxygen and nutrients to pass from the mother's blood to the embryo, and just as important, for waste to be carried away. It's like a temporary custom-built life support system, and it is absolutely essential.
Okay, for our last section, let's zoom out a bit, because this biological process doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It connects directly to our health, our choices, and even society as a whole.
One of the realities of sexual reproduction is that the very same intimate contact that makes it possible can also, unfortunately, be a pathway for diseases to spread. We call these sexually transmitted infections, or STIs. Some are caused by bacteria, like gonorrhea and syphilis, and others are viral, like warts and HIV/AIDS. A crucial preventative measure against many of them is using barrier methods, like condoms, which physically block their transmission.
But of course, sexual activity doesn't always have to be about making a baby. And over time, we've developed all sorts of contraceptive methods. You have barrier methods, which physically stop sperm. There are hormonal methods, like birth control pills, which change the body's hormones to prevent an egg from being released in the first place. You have IUDs, which are devices placed in the uterus. And then there are permanent surgical options. Each one works differently and, as you can see, comes with its own set of things to consider.
And this brings us to a really serious societal issue that has emerged. In some parts of the world, certain medical technologies are being misused for illegal sex-selective abortions. Because of cultural preferences, this has disproportionately targeted female fetuses, leading to a noticeable drop in the child-sex ratio in those communities. It's a demographic shift that is a major cause for social alarm.
And that really leads us to a final, thought-provoking idea to leave you with. It's easy to connect reproduction to population growth and then blame population size for problems like poverty. But as this quote suggests, maybe the number of people isn't the core issue. Maybe the much bigger factor is social inequality and how our resources are shared. It's just a powerful reminder that while reproduction starts as biology, its ripples are felt right across the societies we build. Thanks for tuning in.